Do you have worries seeing how your husband passed that the Bossier City Police Department doesn't have adequate training to deal with people suffering mental illness?
They do not. If you've seen the video, Jeremy was in his boxers. You can tell he had no weapon. You can tell there was something wrong with someone standing outside in their boxers. You know, that's not a normal person. The normal person's not gonna do that.
TxDOT crash data covering the past decade confirmed those fears, showing that semi-truck driver fatigue, speed, or driving in the wrong lane were a factor in every fatal 18-wheeler wreck on Highway 315.
Can you tell me what was going on? Did you all take these signs from someone's yard?
We did not.
We're going to continue to fight for you, and we're going to continue moving Shreveport forward. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, you haven't answered as to why that. Mr. Mayor, if you're going to address this, you got to answer questions. You're walking away calling this a political stunt, but the lawsuit threw you out. Yeah, Doug, that's right. The modification is happening to the Glock. That's one of the most popular handguns in the United States, and people are getting this thing called a Glock switch online using the dark web or even 3D printers, sometimes shopping on Etsy, to get this quarter-size modification that snaps on the back of that gun and turns it into a fully functioning but illegal machine gun.
Is it a fair criticism then to say it's leadership in police departments that fail to see that their officers, the men and women who wear blue and a badge and a gun, that they don't get the proper training they need to deal with people suffering mental illness?
Absolutely, in some circumstances, not in every circumstance.
After sleeping on his ruling overnight this morning at 9 a.m., Judge Victory had the officers stand one by one, announcing his decision to dismiss all criminal charges, freeing the officers from prosecution.
When someone joins the force and they go to the academy, I don't think they plan to put on that blue uniform and become a social worker or become a street psychologist. But that's part of the reality of the job today, isn't it?
Yes.
Wayne Smith will become the 4th chief of police here in Shreveport in the past 6 years. Let that sink in for a minute. And during his press conference, Mayor Adrian Perkins said he didn't interview other candidates other than Wayne Smith for one simple reason. It wasn't mandated under state civil service law or the city charter. He started to go into politics there. He said his political opponents have launched this lawsuit. It's an attack on democracy. It's voter suppression. But he never said which of his opponents. There are 9 other people running for mayor. He named no names. He gave no evidence of that supposed voter suppression and concerted effort by his opponents to take him out. So we thought it was fair to ask the mayor that question.
They're so hungry and optimistic about the value of what this training could provide.
But does that tell you also that they recognize there's a serious issue here that needs to be addressed and those needs weren't necessarily being taken care of?
100%.
So, like Professor Riley said, these numbers show Shreveport's homicide epidemic is its own mutating virus that no one seems to understand the cause of or has a clue how to cure. In the studio, I'm Chief Investigative Reporter Stacey Cameron.
A video shows this whole accident.
They have 2 different camera angles of that red light.
I've watched the video of the wreck.
You got Mike stopped for 45 seconds with his blinker on, and then you see a pair of headlights coming to the picture.
He had plenty of time to touch his brakes, slow down, swerve and miss Mike. He drank, chose to get behind the wheel.
He shouldn't have did what he did.
He was actually doing 70, I believe, in a 55-mile-an-hour speed zone.
He hit Mike right in his door and killed him instantly.
In April of 2017, Mike Humphrey's life came to an end, killed by a suspected drunk driver at this intersection on North Market Street in Shreveport.
It's premeditated murder in my eyes.
And while time is supposed to heal all wounds, for Mike's friends,
He was my best friend, my mentor.
the pain only grows, they say.
Mike actually lived with us for 3 years in our home and became part of our family.
Because 3.5 years later,
There's really not even been a step towards any closure.
the man arrested for Mike's death
He's not served over 5 hours in jail.
is nowhere close to standing trial.
God got us.
His name is L.C. Hearn. He's the man wearing the blue hat leaving court.
Jesus.
And according to a sheriff's report, Hearn admitted drinking before the deadly accident. His blood alcohol content tested above the legal limit, and surveillance cameras from a nearby restaurant captured the deadly wreck on tape.
He drank, chose to get behind the wheel, so he chose to kill Mike. If it wasn't Mike, it was going to be somebody else.
But despite a body of evidence,
That's not up to us.
the Caddo Parish District Attorney's Office is doing little to prosecute Hearn. In fact, since indicting the 66-year-old man for vehicular homicide, court records show prosecutors agreed to postpone the case for arguments and hearings 14 times.
There's no closure for nobody really right now at this point, the way they keep dragging it out.
A request for public records shows the Caddo DA's office charged 16 other people with vehicular homicide since 2014. 11 of those cases ended with defendants pleading guilty on average just 17 months after their arrest. And in 4 of the 5 active cases, prosecutors set 2020 trial dates. But more than 3 years into the Hearn case,
He should have to pay for what he took.
the DA hasn't asked the judge for a trial date.
They're postponing it, postponing it, and postponing it like they're going to throw it right out the door.
So the longer the case drags out,
I feel like it's going to be wiped off the books.
the more Mike's friends say they worry that Hearn won't go to jail, fearing the DA will eventually dismiss the case
He has a high-powered lawyer here in town.
because lawyers representing Hearn are major political donors to Caddo Parish DA James Stewart, contributing more than $30,000 to Stewart's campaigns over the past 5 years, according to campaign finance reports.
There's no doubt money plays a huge issue in what can be accomplished.
Stewart declined multiple interview requests for this story, with a spokesperson saying by email, "We will not comment on an open, active case."
We are no comment. No comment.
That response, basically the same one given by Hearn and his family when asked about the case outside the Caddo Parish Courthouse back in January.
I love your name.
Mike was 52 when Elsie Hearn killed him.
Frustrated, feeling like Hearn could walk away from justice,
And it's up to the courts to make him pay.
Mike's friends say all they can do now is pray and hope one day Hearn pays for the pain this fatal wreck caused.
We miss him every day because it's somebody else's decision, and that's not right.
Thank you, Lord, for giving us life.
As pastor of this small Baptist church,
We magnify and praise you above all else.
Ken Stone has faithfully lifted prayers for almost 4 decades.
Amen.
But today, many of Pastor Stone's pleas to the Lord
We're really concerned about it.
are prayers over the crossroads outside his church,
We make it a matter of prayer to pray over the intersection.
a dangerous intersection
There have been a number of accidents that have ended up with vehicles in our churchyard.
where Stone witnessed a tragic accident,
It was in the first month that we were here in 1984.
a fatality the pastor says he will never forget.
There were several fatalities there, the driver being one of them. Her body was recovered about 100 to 150 feet south of the collision, and that was my introduction to Highway 315.
State Highway 315 connects the East Texas towns of Carthage in Panola County to Mount Enterprise in Rusk County. And while this mostly 2-lane road is just 26 miles long,
There are certain things about the highway that make it more dangerous.
315 is one of the most dangerous highways in the Arklatex. Since 2012, the Texas Department of Transportation recorded 462 crashes on Highway 315. 463 people suffered injuries in those wrecks, with 48 folks seriously hurt and 36 people killed.
We hear the horns and the skidding tires all the time, and we're just braced up waiting for the crash.
Stone fears crashes are becoming more common on 315
GPS puts everybody on this little 2-lane highway.
because this once quiet country road is now a major throughway for semi-trucks traveling between cities like Shreveport and Houston.
Because it's actually 11 minutes shorter by terms of Google Maps to go down 315 than it is to stay on the heavier, bigger highway.
The heavier, bigger highways are Texas 149 and US 59. And according to Fire Marshal Randy Letke,
our local police department, they battle this day in and day out with the amount of trucks coming through our town.
truck drivers really started taking advantage of the Highway 315 shortcut about 10 years ago. And as a result,
we have seen an increase and an uptick in the number of fatality wrecks on that highway.
Letke believes the accidents are getting worse,
There's things that you see that you cannot unsee.
pointing out a deadly accident last December taking the lives of 2 young fathers at the intersection of Highway 315 and County Road 106.
In my years at the fire department working wrecks, that's one of the bad ones.
According to a police crash report, a tired semi-driver who failed to control his speed rear-ended the men's truck, killing both.
It definitely was a horrible deal.
And Letke says when truckers make mistakes on 315,
Speed is a factor in that, especially on the 2-lane sections.
the consequences too often turn deadly.
It just takes that little split second, then it's too late to react to the situation that might be in front of you.
TxDOT crash data covering the past decade confirmed those fears, showing that semi-truck driver fatigue, speed, or driving in the wrong lane were a factor in every fatal 18-wheeler wreck on Highway 315.
It's an interesting dynamic when you live on a highway this busy.
Dan Aguilar says hundreds of tractor trailers pass his sawmill every day, and he thinks big rigs started exiting the bigger highways.
It got real bad after 2008 because almost every vehicle was getting GPSs or smartphones.
Because 315 offers a 70-mile-per-hour speed limit that is rarely enforced.
The 70-mile-an-hour speed limit's done a really good job of keeping the speeds under 80.
And Pastor Stone agrees,
When your speed limit is 70, people are going to push it to 79.
saying 18-wheelers speeding down 315 is a dangerous combination.
I have a CDL license and have driven some pretty large vehicles, and knowing 315, I would not save that 11 minutes. I'd stay on the bigger highway.
Crash records from TxDOT show semi-trucks involved in 113 accidents on Highway 315 in the last decade. That's 25% of the total crash count. When it comes to fatal wrecks, the numbers are worse. Since 2012, TxDOT data shows semis involved in half of the 23 deadly crashes on Highway 315. And of the 36 people killed in those accidents, 22 died in big rig wrecks.
You don't come back from those situations.
Determined to make 315 a safer highway, Pastor Stone says he recently started calling state lawmakers,
I have reached out, as have others.
asking for their help in getting the speed limit dropped.
The least thing, lower the speed limit. I mean, what does that cost? Change a few signs, that say 70, change them to 55.
And adding red lights at 2 dangerous intersections, County Road 106 and Farm Road 95.
Lowering the speed limit and or putting in a stoplight might cause GPS to say, well, it's not worth the time to go that route.
Through a public records request, KSLA learned the state performed speed studies in 2016 and 2018. But according to TxDOT, the study results did not warrant an adjustment to the speed limit on Highway 315. KSLA also requested an on-camera interview with TxDOT to ask about adding stoplights, but department officials declined our invitation to sit down.
How do you put a price on a life? You don't.
Convinced 315 is part of his calling, Stone isn't giving up.
Because God's capable of making anything happen.
Saying with the Lord's help, safer days on this highway lie ahead.
He turns the hearts of kings, so he can turn the legislature or TxDOT or whatever has to happen to get these things in place.
That's Chief Investigative Reporter Stacey Cameron. This entire investigation began because a KSLA viewer reached out to us in the days after that crash. TxDOT tells KSLA that another speed study is scheduled for Highway 315 later this year. And the agency is working to identify funds to widen 315 to 4 lanes in 2 of the busiest stretches. But if approved, construction wouldn't begin until at least 2028. So that leaves concerned residents like Pastor Stone there to ask, why wait? Just lower the speed limit, put in those stop signs, and hopefully save lives.
I ain't done nothing wrong. I ain't your hands behind your back. What?
A series of police videos
Sir, I ain't done nothing.
uncovered by KSLA Investigates.
He resisted?
Shown here for the first time is raising questions.
Certainly there has to be an investigation.
Over the use of force exercised by 2 sheriff deputies and a deputy jailer working for the DeSoto Parish Sheriff's Office. And recently, KSLA spoke with 2 of the men seen in the videos. Tony Fuller.
First, I just threw up my hands and asked him why he hit me.
And Curtis Terrell.
He threw me down on the ground and arrested me. I was wondering why he doing it.
Both arrested by Deputy Jason Algren after use of force incidents. Fuller's encounter,
I didn't know why he was so mad,
took place in October 2018. Dashcam video shows Deputy Algren following this red PT Cruiser after the vehicle allegedly struck a metal pole at a gas station. Moments later, when the car stops at a Family Dollar store, 2 passengers exit and Algren starts questioning Fuller.
What'd you do over there? I ain't doing nothing over there.
When the deputy learns Fuller wasn't driving at the time of the accident, Algren tells him to go get the car's teenage driver inside the store. Fuller says no.
You're gonna do what I say. Go get him.
Turns to walk away.
Come here.
And the deputy punches him in the face from behind and then forcefully wrestles Fuller to the ground.
Put your hands behind your back. I'm not resisting, sir. Put your hands behind.
As soon as he got me on the ground, he tried to hold my head and scrub it against the cement. That's when I got mad.
Deputy Algren is then seen punching Fuller again.
Put your hands behind your back. Yes, sir. You up, sir.
And arrest the young man.
You punched me and everything. I'm not resisting. You're resisting.
For allegedly resisting arrest.
I'm not resisting, sir.
That charge got dropped by the district attorney.
Where are you bleeding at?
But still traumatized by the incident.
As of now, I really feel like I don't need to be in DeSoto.
Fuller tells KSLA he's hired a lawyer and plans to sue Deputy Algren and the sheriff's office.
I really didn't do nothing wrong.
Terrell's encounter with Deputy Algren,
I don't know what he's doing. I ain't never seen a cop try to arrest somebody like that.
came in August 2019.
You all right? Yes, sir.
When his wife called 911 asking for an ambulance after Terrell mixed prescription drugs with alcohol.
I wasn't trying to fight back. He's just trying to be rough.
Video shows Deputy Algren confronting Terrell on a dark road outside his home.
Walk to the front of my vehicle and I'm not going to tell you again. Okay, for what? Because I said.
Terrell is seen obeying the deputy's order, walking towards the dash camera while talking on his cell phone. But when Terrell gets to the front of Algren's police vehicle, the incident suddenly escalates.
I ain't done nothing wrong. I ain't your hands behind your back. What?
With the deputy tackling Fuller from behind.
Look, I'm not fighting. I don't care.
And placing him under arrest for resisting. That case also got dropped by the DeSoto DA, but Terrell lost his job sitting in jail.
This seems to be some type of pattern with this officer and with the sheriff's department.
So he hired attorney Howard Conde, who is preparing a civil rights lawsuit against Algren, DPSO,
I think it's a clear incident of excessive use of force,
and Sheriff Jason Richardson.
We want to make sure that we put our stake in the ground as the top law enforcement in this area.
Richardson, who was sworn in as sheriff 2 years ago,
So help me God.
declined to be interviewed for this story. But Michael Tabman, a former FBI special agent in charge,
This was not de-escalation. This was provocation by the police officer.
spoke with KSLA after watching 2 more use of force episodes, including this dashcam video recorded in March 2019 showing DeSoto deputies responding to a fight at a car wash.
The officers go to break it up and they do it properly. You can see the rest of the crowd is helping. They're trying to keep these 2 guys from going back at each other.
But as Deputy William Bates, the officer closest to the camera, brings one suspect back towards his vehicle,
The guy was there and he was cooperating.
the deputy grabs the man's ponytail, yanking him to the ground, and in Tabman's opinion,
Yes, that was overly aggressive.
the force used by Deputy Bates looks excessive.
He doesn't seem to be doing anything aggressive that would warrant him to be taken down like that.
The final incident took place last September. The video doesn't capture a violent encounter.
This is certainly the kind of incident you want your chain of command to know about.
Instead, it's body camera footage from a Louisiana state trooper.
He resisted?
Showing a suspect who allegedly resisted a deputy jailer while getting booked into the DeSoto Parish Detention Center after his arrest for unauthorized use of a stolen vehicle.
You okay?
Once you accept custody of an individual, you're accepting responsibility for his safety.
Sources identify the jailer as Javaria Pouncey and tell KSLA he took custody of Brown for jail processing, but when Pouncey returns the suspect to the state trooper,
Can't answer any questions?
Brown's left eye appears swollen shut. His face looks bruised and beaten in the video and close to slipping unconscious.
You work anywhere?
Brown struggles to answer the trooper's questions.
You got a next of kin phone number or anything I can call? What's the name?
Eventually, Brown is heard asking the trooper for medical help.
You want to go to the hospital?
Disturbed by this incident,
Maybe he did resist, but we need to see evidence of that.
Tabman says internal and criminal investigations are needed here, saying all 4 incidents taken together
It does raise a concern.
raise a possible pattern of excessive use of force inside the DeSoto Parish Sheriff's Office.
When we see a pattern, we see a culture that needs to be changed because that's sort of encouraging and endorsing that type of conduct.
Investigating this story, I wanted to make you aware whether the deputies you saw in the videos are still on the job in DeSoto Parish. According to information from a public records request, Deputy Algren was placed on paid administrative leave last August, but only after the DA indicted him for malfeasance in office in connection with the 2 violent encounters you just watched. Algren is pleading not guilty. Deputy Bates is still patrolling DeSoto Parish, and there is no public record of any internal investigation by the Sheriff's Office over his use of force. Now, Deputy Jailer Pouncey, he resigned according to the Sheriff's Office, but sources tell me there is now at least 1 ongoing criminal investigation of this incident. I'll keep you updated. For now, I'm KSLA Chief Investigative Reporter Stacey Cameron.
I'm sorry I drove my police car up there. If my truck had been ready, which is supposed to be ready tomorrow at the body shop, I wouldn't be driving this piece of
Captured by police body and dash camera, this is video of an incident
one of the best police y'all got in this city.
that cost Travis Coker his job with the Bossier City Police Department. The January 13th episode,
Bossier Police, PCO5.
starting with a phone call reporting a police officer
He's like swerving into oncoming traffic and speeding.
driving his patrol unit recklessly on Highway 162 in Benton.
I watched him almost hit a mailbox a couple miles back, and then since then he's swerved into the opposite lane like 5 or 6 times, like over the median. He looks like a young guy. I think he's intoxicated. I'm really worried.
Following the call, department supervisors identified the driver as off-duty officer Travis Coker, making contact with him at a Brookshire's parking lot in Benton.
Yeah, pill bottle on the scene. They walked up. What was that? I had to check to see what they were. Wait.
According to this internal affairs investigation, supervisors noticed a pill bottle in Coker's police vehicle, the prescription stating may cause dizziness.
Adderall? What is it? The Exotram? Or what? Lorazepam? Yeah. It caused dizziness. Have you taken a couple of these? No, not today. No.
The investigative report stating he appeared under the influence of medication or substance, and because Coker was operating a city police vehicle, supervisors ordered him to take a reasonable suspicion drug test.
There's no video footage of me swerving, nothing.
Pursuant to BCPD policy.
I will go to any test y'all want me to go to. Just give me just a little bit of time.
Can't do that.
I will drive a POV back there. We're not going to let you drive. That's the purpose of the test, to make sure that you're okay. Let me get somebody come get me.
But the IA investigation says Coker became very agitated and disrespectful, refused testing, and argues with his sergeant when told to stand in front of the patrol unit.
No.
Well, I need to stand in front of the damn vehicle. Because I said so, that's why. Well, who are you to say so? You ain't no rank to me today. At this point, I don't trust you, man. I don't care if you trust me or not. I don't want you near me. That's fine. I don't want you near me. How about that?
The IA report indicates that Coker was immediately placed on administrative leave, and a second body camera video shows him surrendering his duty weapon and badge later that same day.
You okay?
I don't know what this going on.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
13 days after the episode, the internal affairs case against Coker for refusing a screening test and misconduct was sustained. And according to this report, the police department's top brass, including Chief Shane McWilliams, agreed with the investigative findings, but the department didn't write this termination letter for 2 weeks, the same day I started asking questions about the case, seeking records of the Coker investigation and copies of all police videos.
I'm good. Let's not get to the point where this thing gets escalated. It don't have to get escalated because the thing is you're OJ here. Okay? And you might have the car, but you don't have me.
I did reach out to BCPD requesting an interview with Chief McWilliams, but speaking through a department spokesperson, the chief declined to sit down. I also contacted Coker by cell phone while he wouldn't comment.
Hello, I'm looking for Mr. Travis Coker.
Coker did put me in touch with his attorney, who so far hasn't returned my messages seeking comment.
I just want to tell y'all, every one of y'all, that I have no hard feelings towards anybody.
Coker is expected to appeal his firing before the Civil Service Board, a process my sources say is already in the works.